Thanks, Lynn. I am Mossie. I am an alcoholic, and I absolutely love being sober. I love what Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. I love what it's done for my family. Um, I never know what's going to come out of my mouth, except a guy called down to me one morning. I was 12 or 13 years of age, and he said, I'm after stealing 70 pounds off my father. He said, come on and we go drinking. And it seemed like a good plan that day. Um, so we went to town. We get this guy to we walked down Shop Street in Galway, and we seen this guy outside a pub, and this guy was one of the coolest guys in Galway City at the time, with JJ Gaffney. And we asked him would he get the drink for us, and he said he would. And that guy died inside in the lock ward. Um, the next guys I started drinking with.
Only sunshine, you make me happy. West as a breeze. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine.
Always one. The next guy that we started drinking with, the two of them ended up winos on the streets of Galway. And from day one, that's the quality of people that I drank with. You know, I don't believe I ever crossed over any line. I took a drink, and the drink took me from day one. And I remember walking home the day of my first drink, and I was a few hundred yards away from home, and I went into a shop and bought an onion, and I started eating the onion like you'd eat an apple to kill the smell of the drink. And I remember walking home thinking, this is a lie. You know, I knew I was doing wrong, and I knew I was out of control from day one. And this guy used to do a bit of work for his father. He used to kind of do the books for his father. His father had the business, but Jerry used to do the books for him at the end of the week. But Jerry wasn't great at maths, so I used to do the books for Jerry, and we creamed off in the early 70s, we creamed off hundreds of pounds on a weekly basis out of the business, and we took anything we could get our hands on. And that was from the start. By the age of 15 and 16, I was in serious trouble with drink, and I knew it. At 16, I started going through the court system, and my father was a powerful man. He literally was bribing cops with jobs. When they retired, there'd be a job waiting for them or any of their friends, as long as I was kept out of jail or kept out of trouble. And that's the way it continued for many years. The reporters were bribed to keep the family name good, as you do. And the funny thing was, we had the nicest house in a posh estate, and we had a brand new car every 2 years, and we were the only ones on the street that had it. And we looked the part. My father had suits made every year, and everything looked great. But I knew when I went into other people's houses that ours wasn't right. And I always had this thing inside of me that I didn't fit in. We moved from Sligo to Galway when I was 8 years of age. And once I moved to Galway, I never fitted in. I couldn't make friends. I tried different clubs and stuff, and I'd only last a few weeks. I didn't fit in. I never felt a part of. And I did things to try please people, or to try get people to like me. And it ended up that I just became what people wanted me to become. Unfortunately, by the age of 16, I was involved with people that I shouldn't have been involved with. And I was doing stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And when you get a reputation, well, when I got my reputation, just so that you know, I'm 5'2", but I had a reputation that I'd tear the head off you. And if I didn't get you today, I'd get you again. I always carried through a resentment forever. I spent 5 years waiting to get one guy, and I got him on a Christmas Eve in the main street in Galway. And I'm glad all my drinking was done before camera phones came out. But all my drinking was, it just caused hurt to people. And it seemed to me I was okay until I, 20 or 21. Because I thought I was only hurting myself. I didn't see what I'd done to my parents. I didn't see what I'd done to everybody that I hurt along the way. And that is the truth. I didn't see it. But I got involved with this lady, and I kind of fell in love with this girl, or in lust. I don't know what I fell in love with, but at the time I went to the doctor, and the doctor put me on medication to get me off the drink and the drugs. And I worked in the hospital at the time, so I used to get into the pharmacy in the morning and take fistfuls of medication. Well, fistfuls of tablets. I couldn't call it medication because it wasn't prescribed. And I went off the drink that time for 13 months. But I was popping pills the whole time. And that was the longest time I ever stopped drinking. But I always had something in my system, because I did not want to feel the way I was feeling. I didn't want to be me. I'd hated me my whole life. And my life was miserable, but when you're a hard man, you can't let that be seen. So I put on an act the whole time. I walked into a house I went out one night and I was fighting, and this guy kicked two of my teeth out. And I walked into a house the following morning, and this guy started laughing at me, and he wasn't the brightest spark, but he started laughing at me because I lost two of my teeth. And I grabbed a hold of him, and he was about 6 foot tall. And I battered him until I broke his teeth. And, I had a lot of guilt over that, but I couldn't show it. So I buried every feeling I had, I buried it with drink always. I got this lady anyway, we were supposed to get married and all. And I was in bed with her one night and she said, I can't do this. I'm finishing this. And we slept together that night, and the following morning she just packed her bags. She said, I'm gone. And my reaction to that was, I rang one of my mates. I said, I'm coming home. I said, get me a bottle of whiskey. And I went and that night all hell broke loose again. I literally painted the town red. And from then on, I had no control whatsoever. I got involved with another lady, and I didn't love her. She was more like a drinking partner she was more like a drinking partner than anything else. But while I was going out with her, I met another lady, and everything was fine until she found out about the other lady, and so she broke it off, and I ended up staying with this other lady, and she got pregnant. And at this stage we were living together, and we had a plan. Well, it was a loose plan, but it was a plan. We were going to stay together and look after the child, and it was going to be a fresh start. And once that child was born, I wanted to change. I knew I've had these feelings for my daughter, and I didn't know how to express them. I didn't know how to I didn't know how to be a father because I hadn't got a role model either for that. Um, and I didn't know how to be a husband because I hadn't got a role model for that. I had no idea of how I was supposed to behave, but I was violent everywhere I went. Um, but I remember when my daughter was 6 months old, and bear in mind I'm a hard man now. When my daughter was 6 months old, I had her in my arms and I was rocking her, and the front door was closed and locked, and I was in the kitchen with the door closed, and I put masking tape on the keyhole so nobody could see me if they were looking in the front door. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but that's where my paranoia was gone. And I was asking my daughter, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to just get it together? And we had eviction notices. My wife wanted a barred order. They were cutting the electricity in the house. There was nothing right in my life. And there was no hope or there was no dreams left inside of me. And life was miserable. And I made everybody else miserable. And there was no hope. Before my daughter was born, a guy conned me into coming into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't want to go, but he said he was calling, and he called, and he broke my heart when he knocked on the door. My heart actually sank when I heard the knock on the door. And I went to the meeting. I got a few meetings, and while I went to meetings, I didn't want to drink. And I'd go back out drinking again. I'd stop going to meetings every time, and I'd go back out drinking. And the guilt got worse, and the shame got worse, and the paranoia got worse, and there was no hope again. And I'd come back to meetings, not because I wanted to, but because there was no place else. I didn't know what the answer was, but I knew the answer wasn't outside. And I'd come back to meetings for a while, and I'd get fed up of all guys saying the same thing. And I'd go back out again. I'd stop going to meetings, I'd go back out, and it just created more and more misery. You know, I remember saying to my wife, I got sober another time, and well, I stopped drinking. I wouldn't call it sober, but I stopped drinking, and I said to my wife, we had great plans, and I'm going to get this bit of work here, and I'll be earning money, and we'll be able to buy a couple of cars, and you can tell your friends now on the job that we're going to get a new car each, and she turned around and she looked me straight in the eye. She said, nobody believes me, she said. And that was like a shovel in the face for me. Nobody believed what she was saying because she was telling them what I was telling them. And I'll never forget the look on her face when she said that to me. I never forget the look on the face of my mother, you know, every time I break out in the drink. And there was no hope. My last drunk lasted 4 days. And I ended up in hospital being detoxed. And the only reason they took me in was my blood pressure was so low, they was afraid I was going to just fall over altogether. And I remember waking up the following morning, and a doctor came up and he took a look at the chart, and he just threw the chart on the bed. Another drunk, and he walked away. Now they did keep me in, and they detoxed me, and everything was. I remember there was a guy, Peter Coyne, in the bed across from me, and he'd fallen down the stairs after breaking out in the drink, and he was crippled. He was from head to toe, he couldn't move, and he was in that bed dying. And I knew what I was going to do this time. I knew that I wasn't going to drink, but I was going to go back smoking drugs. So I got out of hospital. My wife drove the car up home, and she said my mother's inside. So as soon as we got up to the house, she got out of the driver's seat. I got into the driver's seat. I went back into this particular bar, and there was a guy inside there that used to be 28 years sober, and he skinned up a joint, and I started smoking weed again. And that day I couldn't get into drugs, and that was a godsend. I was supposed to go in that night at 8 o'clock, and I was nicely stoned. I drove the car home, went up to bed, and I got a couple of hours sleep. And as soon as I woke again, the paranoia was back. And this hard man was afraid to go outside the door again. And I was upstairs, I wanted to be downstairs. I was downstairs, I wanted to be in the sitting room. I went into the sitting room, I wanted to be in the bathroom. I went into the bathroom, I wanted to be in the kitchen. I couldn't settle whatsoever. And I was afraid. The fear of God was back inside me again. Because I was after coming down off all the drugs that gave me in hospital, down off all the weed. And I was broken. And I tried to go to bed that night, but I couldn't settle. I couldn't settle at all. And about 4 o'clock that morning, I got down on my knees beside the bed and I said, God, if there's a God out there, just let me sleep. I just needed to get some sleep. And I woke up the following morning. I got a few hours sleep. I woke up the following morning. And I walked down the stairs. And I remember my wife shouting at me. She says, where are you going now? And I said, I have to go. And I walked into Galway City. And as I was walking down that stairs, I remembered the thought in my head was this. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's not my wife. It's not my father. It's not my upbringing. It's nothing. It's not the teachers. It's not the jobs. It's all my fault. And I walked into the centre of Galway City and I walked up Merchants Road to a friend of mine. And I spent an hour and a half walking outside his office. And I couldn't face him because I'd let A down again. And I'd let him down again. And I'd let everybody down again. And after an hour and a half of walking up and outside his office, I walked away because I couldn't face him. And I couldn't go back to Alcoholics Anonymous. And he, you know, as I was walked away, he walked out and he said, Mossie, he said, how you doing? I said, Bernard, I'm fecked. And he walked down the couple of steps from the office and he wrapped his arms around me and he gave me a big bear hug. He said, Mossie, he says, I'm glad you're feeling so bad. You need never feel this bad again. And that was the 12th of July 1989. I haven't had a drink or a drug since. He walked me up the steps of Osnam House. And that was the first meeting that I actually wanted to go to. That I really wanted to go to. I wanted help. I wanted something to change. I was asked to speak after 3 weeks and I said, I must say I'm an alcoholic. And Alcoholics Anonymous is after changing. It's changed because I could hear the message. I could hear what people were saying. I could hear what the old guys were saying. I could hear their message because they weren't changing their story. I wasn't listening for the punchline anymore. I was listening to anything else but that. And I began to understand. And I'm lucky enough that I hung around with this guy. And he was a slipper. But that's the kind of people I hung around with for the 4 years I was going in and out. But one night he brought me up to his brother, and after about 20 minutes up in his brother's house, he said, Mossie, he said, I can't listen to Jimmy anymore. He says, I'm getting out of here. He said, come on. And for some reason, I didn't go. I sat down in that house and I listened to this guy. And his name was Jimmy Hickey. And I believe that man was sent from God to save me. I firmly believe that. I left the house at 5 o'clock that morning and Jimmy gave me a lift up home in his nice new Mercedes. And I went back down the following night. And he could talk. Jimmy could talk and he could laugh. The house would vibrate when this guy would laugh. I used to think he was laughing at me. I'd go out to his fridge and his fridge was full. You couldn't fit a matchbox inside in his fridge and mine was empty. And I had a wife and 3 kids. His house was warm and mine was cold. He always had a couple of quid in his pocket. I had nothing. Now my wife always worked, so I can never ever blame her for our financial situation. It was all my fault. And I started to listen to Jimmy. And he said to me one night, what do you do if you get a new television or video? I said, you sit it up on the counter, you play around with it for a while. He said, I know all that, Mossie. He said, what do you do after about a half an hour? I said, well, I'd probably get the instruction manual to find out how it works. And I didn't realise what I was actually saying. Now, Jimmy was crippled. And he grabbed his crutch, and I thought he was going to hit me with the look on his face. But I got down behind his chair and he picked up something and he threw it at me. And it was the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he said this to me. If you want to get sober, Mossie, this is how you do it. If you don't want to do it this way, he says, take your misery and fuck off out of here. Excuse my language. But that's the way he spoke to me. And he paused for a second and then he said to me, and I promise you a life beyond your wildest dreams if you do what you're told. On my mother's deathbed, she said, Mossie never done what he was told. And I did once. And I haven't had a drink since. It's changed everything for me. And I hate my drinking story because it's all just hurt, guilt, shame and remorse. That's all that's in it for me. But I love my sober story. I love the fact that I got the opportunity to make amends to my parents. I love the fact that 2 hours before my mother died, I had her in stitches laughing. Because I'm a funny guy, you know what I mean? I think I am anyway. I went up to my mother one night and she said to me, she spent the last few months in hospital and beautiful lady. And she said to me, am I dying, Mossie? And I said, no, they're trying to get the medication, right? Blah, blah, blah. And I hate lying. And I went home that night and I just couldn't sleep. And until I made a decision, I couldn't sleep anyway. So I got my few hours sleep and I woke up the following morning. I went up to the hospital and I sat down beside my mother. And I said, Nana, I said, you asked me last night, are you dying? And I said, I told you they're trying to get the medication. I said, that's bull. I said, you're dying. And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, what can I do? She said, this isn't living, she said, in bed like this. I said, I grabbed her chart and I said, look, stop taking all this medication and keep taking these few tablets. And she said, how long will it last? I said, a couple of days at the most. So I went up and I got the doctor and signed up all the forms. And she said to me, Mossie, she said, will you tell me when I'm going? I said I would. And 2 days later, I could hear the change in her. And I went up to her and I called her and I said, Nana. And I looked her clean in the eye. I said, you're on the way. And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, thank you, Mossie. She looked up to the ceiling. She said, thank you, God. And she slipped away within a few minutes after that. And I was there with that woman, and because I loved her. That night I gave her, or that day I gave her a kiss and told her I loved her. And I was there. Now I was blessed My father never treated my mother very well, and he wouldn't pay for her funeral or anything. But I was blessed I had the money to do it, myself and my wife, and we gave my mother a beautiful send-off. And I have no regrets there. My family is totally dysfunctional. We never spoke about anything. And the family never got on together. If three of them was talking, two of them weren't talking to the fourth one, or if you talk to me, I'm not talking to you, or there was always this lark. But my brother said to me the day we buried my mother, he says, "Can I ask you a question, Mossie?" I said, "You can." He said, "Have you any guilt?" I said, "No, Brian." And he put his head on the table. He said, "I have." And the difference between me and him is 3 meetings a week. I believe that. That's the difference. And giving this program my best shot. My father died a year and a half later. And he died of guilt, shame and remorse. And I don't want to go that way. I got an opportunity to make amends to my wife and to my kids. And I've done it. I've got all my kids talk to me. I know everything that goes on in their life. I know stuff I shouldn't know, that I don't want to know. But they're open and honest with me. I learned how to make a lot of money in Alcoholics Anonymous. And life is fantastic when you have 5 cars outside your door and you have a couple of houses and you're in 5-star hotels and castles, and life is wonderful. And I've been able to keep a smile on my face while I had the money. And I was able to put a smile on other people's faces. And then my wife got sick. My wife ended up in the psychiatric unit, rocking over and back, not knowing who she was. My business goes belly up. I went from earning stupid money to earning like €5 an hour. And that's in a matter of weeks. It all fell apart. My wife lost her job, lost her wages. My business goes belly up. 2 of my sons end up in prison. I was able to visit them, take care of them. I was able to keep a smile on my face all through that. My wife's depression has never left. So things go up and down, but that's okay. I get regular meetings. I stay sober, and I try to carry the message as best I can. I have sorry, I thought a message came through there for me. I have a great relationship with my wife for 40 years together. I have a great relationship with my kids. And that's something you can't buy. We nearly lost our home because of everything that went wrong that time. And things turned out okay. Things actually turned out okay. Now we have a champagne lifestyle on Coca-Cola wages, is the only way I can describe it. There's a lot of love in my life. Everywhere I go, I'm surrounded by love, and that is the truth. I live over in Lanzarote. It's a little island off the coast of Africa, about 900 miles south of Spain, about 40 miles west of Africa. And it's the poor man's Florida, really. It's on the same line of latitude as Florida. And I have a great lifestyle. I retired at 50, and everything was great again until a few years ago, and my health turned on me. I ended up about 5 years ago or 6 years ago. My health turned. I ended up going from no doctors, no medication, to having 7 consultants working on different parts of at the one time. to try keep me in one piece and keep me upright. And I'm still not right. I'm as healthy as I'm ever going to be today. Things are only going to get worse. But today, I'm alive. I have a smile on my face. I was able to put a smile on a few people's faces today. The business I'm in today is the smile business. Nothing else. I'm in the smile business. And, you know, after, I remember being in hospital, I was on about my 7th admission in 3 months there a few years ago, and this voice, I really feeling down and thinking, is this the end of it? Am I screwed? And I was really feeling down, and then a voice came into my head, and the voice started screaming at me saying, "You miserable bee," okay, I won't say the word, you've had 29 years of living, and most people don't get that. So in my head it was saying, you've only got today, Mossie. So I make the most of every single day. I try to have a good attitude. And what has happened, especially since COVID and Zoom and all that, you know, I didn't believe that this online stuff ever worked. Contempt prior to investigation, that was wrote across my forehead. I didn't believe it worked. And so a meeting started, the Canadian International Group started, and it's just opened up a whole new world to me. Here I am sitting in the UK in Mick the Ferret's house and doing a meeting in Tennessee with people I don't know, but I do know. I feel at home here. And I said from the beginning that I felt different and I was unconnected. Alcoholics Anonymous, I feel a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. I feel a part of. And one of the reasons I feel a part of is that I started doing a bit of service. And I did service for various different reasons. I remember they were looking for a cleaner in Nottingham House. And nobody had cleaned the floors, and I thought, ye miserable shower of, I'll clean the floors. And everybody in Nottingham House had their own seats, you know what I mean? There was a couch over this side, and there was armchairs over this side. So when every time I cleaned the place, I moved everything around. And it drove everyone demented. Until I got sacked as a cleaner, but somebody else took it up. But I got great joy out of that, watching them when I came in that night, you know what I mean? And they couldn't get their chairs. But it made me feel a part of. People used to come up and say, "Well done, Mossie. Thanks for your service." My first Christmas sober, what time did I start? Or what time did we finish? My first Christmas sober, this is what Alcoholics Anonymous is all about. You can read the big book and you can quote it from corner to corner. But I've met living people from the big book. My first Christmas sober, I was broke, skint. And I was down the girl's house one morning and she said to me, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I haven't got the price of Santi for the kids." She said, "Go into the kitchen, into the hot press under the pink baby row and take £200 and buy Santi for the kids." She said, "Just do it and go." And I bought Santi for the kids. She gave me the money. Now, she never asked me was I going to pay her back or how I was going to pay her back. A few days later, 10 o'clock at night, a knock comes to my door and I open up the door. Frank Hickey was outside the door, Jimmy's brother, a professional painter. He said, "Mossie," he said, "we need to clean up your house for Christmas." He said, he'd rollers, paint, trays, ladders, brushes, everything. And that night we painted the hall, stairs, the landing, the sitting room and the kitchen. And I was trying to explain to him, "But Frank, I can't pay you. I can't pay you, man." And he says to me, "Cut in that properly. Stop dripping the paint. Clean up that. Make me a cup of coffee." All night long he was giving me orders. And I was saying to him, "But Frank, I can't pay you. And all night long he dismissed me. And at the end of the night, we loaded up his van when the whole house was painted, the whole bottom floor of the house was painted. And we had everything put in the van, and I said, Frank, I can't pay you. And he said, Mossie, he said, if you appreciate what I've done for you, he said, go help others. And for me, that's what the big book is all about. Helping others. I was told I was never going to make it as a singer. That I only know 3 notes. Do, re, mi, 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 mi. I didn't understand what was being said to me. But I was told if you can stop thinking about yourself for 5 minutes a day, Mossie, you'll have a good day. And think of somebody else. And I tried to do that today. The Canarian International Group is, that meeting started, it means a lot to me. And the people in it mean a lot to me. And as COVID went on and the lockdown came down, I just made a decision I'm going to try meet as many of them as I can. And I've travelled from country to country to try meet them, and we have a good laugh. Mick the Ferret is a man that I met online. I'm staying in his house for the last few days, and it is my first time here. Tomorrow I'll go down to another lady's house, and we've a couple of evenings planned out, meeting other members, meeting other fellows. I'm heading over to the Netherlands in June. I'll be travelling around Ireland between that. I'm always on the go. Yet I couldn't get the entrance fee into a pub. Life is good. Life is wonderful. I stayed sober long enough that I became a granddad. And this, I always like to finish up on this. I became a granddad to six kids. They love me dearly. They think I'm nuts. I prove it to them on a daily basis. You know, one of my granddaughters, my daughter went in one day into the sitting room, and she was sitting in the lotus position with her hands like this. And her mother said to her, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm in my quiet place." You know, how does that happen to a child like that? It's because of AA. My grandkids, they're 6 years of age, the 2 youngest ones. They're 2 beautiful redheads. And they actually chant with me at times. We'll be inside in the car chanting. It's just been an amazing journey. My wife woke me up one morning and she'd stitches laughing. I said, "What is wrong with you this hour of the morning?" I said, "What are you laughing at?" She said, "I'm laughing at you, you're at it again." I said, "What?" She said, "You're chanting in your sleep." I do wake up in the middle of the night roaring laughing. I don't know what I'm laughing at. But I'll tell you something, it beats crying. One of my sponsees travelled 140 miles, drove down to meet me for an hour. And we went to a meeting, and we left the meeting, we went up to the graveyard of Jimmy Hickey. To this day, I still visit his grave. And the funny thing was, Peter's a big guy. I'm a little guy. Peter's a big guy. And he says to me, he said, "Thank you, Jimmy Hickey. Because if it wasn't for Jimmy, he wouldn't be alive either." It's just amazing. I get regular meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Most of them are online now, I have to say. I stay in contact with a higher power that I do not understand. I've no concept of God. There's no church that does it for me. But I'm only 5'2". I believe there's something bigger than me out there. And as long as it's not me, it's all okay. I ask for help and I give thanks. My instruction manual is still the Big Book of AA. I love what that book has done for me. My daughter, what date is today? The 17th? My daughter is 47 days sober. After a gap of 17 years, she's 47 days sober. It's a wonderful thing to have her in this fellowship as well. Two of my sons came in and went back out. After they went out, they ended up in prison. They were out. They're doing okay. They're not leading the life that I want them to lead, but I have to mind my own business. But that's it. I've rabbited it on long enough. I love being sober. I love what this fellowship has done for me. I love what it's done for my family. And I love the fact that I wake up with a smile on my face every morning. And that's the truth. Thank you all for listening to me. If I've offended anybody, go talk to your sponsor or say a prayer to your higher power. I still need all the help I can get. Thank you.